But the kicker is he was in The Hobbit, but he wasn't one of the Hobbits. I think that's the kicker.
Yeah, they were all taller than me in real life.
Welcome, friends and fans, to another edition of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. And today's show will be bigger on the inside than it appears on the outside, with 4 Time Lords from Doctor Who. So without further ado, let's reverse the polarity of the neutron flow and bring them in. Our first guest is an actor whose body of work includes With Nail and Eye, Hornblower, and Luther. Today he joins us to discuss his role as the 8th Doctor. Please welcome back Paul McGann.
Hey folks, hello Who world. Great to be back.
Good to have you back, Paul. How you been?
I'm good, yeah. Aren't we lucky to be able to do this? As you know, as we've been the last year or so. This is a privilege. And a lot of fun as well. So
absolutely. And shows are coming back. We've just announced our Raleigh show over here in the States, and we'll, as the world begins. The nice thing though is that GalaxyCon Live will continue. We're going to keep doing this.
And I agree, and I think, probably what we'll see, or we should see if we're sensible, is a mixture of the two. Of course, it's going to be great, of course, to be back in rooms with people and hugging each other and everything else. But also doing these, as we've proved now, is a real, it's been a hoot, so long will continue.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to serving you again on our physical stages as well as the GalaxyCon virtual stage as always.
Serve away.
Next, he is an actor whose credits include Dracula, Sense8, and The Hobbit. Today he joins us to discuss his time as a Colin Baker wig model and the 7th Doctor. Please welcome back Sylvester McCoy.
Thank you very much. Yes. I was delighted. I mean, yeah, the best role I ever played was Colin Baker's wig model. I think I take my hat off for that.
Well, you kind of had to, didn't you, to put the wig on?
I had, yes.
Yeah.
The fact is, I looked like Harpo Marx, but I mean, I'm not saying Colin did. I didn't look like Colin. I looked more like Harpo Marx, which made me very pleased because I'm a great fan of not only Collins but Harpo Marx.
Again, given your penchant and incredible skills of physical comedy, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Pension? How do you know about my pension?
Oh, well, your penchant. I don't talk about I don't talk about pensions.
Don't use French words with him; it confuses him.
All right, I'll stick to England, and
he only lives there.
Right.
That makes it even more confusing.
All right, we can cross about our equity pensions after this. All right, our next guest, he is an actor whose body of work includes The Brothers, War and Peace, and Blake Seven. He is here today to discuss his role as the 6th Doctor. Welcome back, Colin Baker.
And I have a penchant for wearing wigs.
Is it an equity penchant?
It's an equity penchant.
I thought you were on a diet. I know you had a penchant, but you said you lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, I thought you said pawn shop. I was like, really? A pawn shop for wigs?
It's hard to believe, but 2.5 stone, yeah.
Oh, well, bravo.
Thank you.
What's that in kilos?
Oh. Who are you? What's that in kilos, you modern person, you?
Come on, man.
I only do Fahrenheit, pounds and ounces. I don't know what it is in kilos. Anybody else know?
I bet one of our guests knows.
You don't do kilos in America, do you?
No, and I'm screwed up because my generation, when we were kids learning measurements, they tried to teach my generation metric, and then they gave up. So I went from English to metric and then back to English, and so we're gaffed.
What's 2.5? So 28 pounds, about 30 pounds. A kilo is 2.24. So work it out.
14 kilos then. About 14 kilos.
There you go.
All right. There you go.
That's a lot of K's, dude.
I had a lot of K's to lose.
Well, Colin, absolutely glad to have you back. Glad to see you in good spirit and good health as always.
Thank you. What I'm looking forward to is losing the entire weight of Sylvester.
Just cut one of your legs off. Just have done with it.
That's the way to do it.
And finally, he is an actor whose body of work includes The Strain, Game of Thrones, and the Harry Potter film series. Today, he joins us to discuss his multiple roles in Doctor Who, including the voice of the Shan-Sheet, Solomon, the First Doctor, and William Hartnell, the actor. Please welcome back David Bradley.
Oh, hello, and thank you for that intro. I must look myself up. Very generous. Thank you. I hadn't realized that you'd gone back to feet and yards and pounds and ounces. So I want to live in America. I miss it so much. It drives me up the wall, all this kilos and
units of 10, basically.
Yes.
Just throws you completely, doesn't it?
Yeah, when I go for medical for every TV and whatever you do, and they say, "What's your weight?" I say, "Well, I'm at 11 stone. Work it out,
I used to be a pub. There was a pub in Islington called the King's Head where they didn't change over from pounds, shillings, and pence to the decimal.
Yeah.
And I used to go in there and get terribly depressed because I knew what pounds, shillings, and pence meant organically. I could feel it. It was, I grew up with it. It was internal as well as external. And when I went in there and asked for a pint one day and they said it was 17 and 6, I became so depressed. I didn't realize, because I was drinking it in decimal, and I had no idea what that value was. So, I mean, I've never forgotten that.
Yeah. I wonder if they still do that, because last time I was in there, I paid in pounds and pence. Yeah. Anyway.
I just throw a credit card or insert it in the machine and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So indeed. Well, gentlemen, as always, welcome back to the GalaxyCon virtual stage. Looking forward to the day where we can again host you at our physical stages. In the meantime, we have this ongoing forum. So glad to have you here. Our team is going through the chat room right now, pulling out the questions. In the meantime, I'd just like to throw this out. What was the craziest day that you experienced on the set of your run on Doctor Who?
Let me go first because I only had a handful of days, and it was that day we did Night of the Doctor in Cardiff. There you go.
Yeah,
definitely. We shot that in a day. Well, day. That's 2 hours.
A day.
A day. Yeah, and maybe a little bit of the next morning. Well, it was only 6 minutes long, so yeah, it was just a day's filming.
But there was some pyro and stuff. It was
and we arrived, and it was in a corner of the studio in Cardiff where the 50th film had just been shot.
Yeah,
and we'd waited till they'd wrapped. We went in on a Sunday after the Saturday, and there was still sort of detritus around it at a party. I think there was still a few stragglers, a couple of walks of shame, a few people sort of hidden under sofas. And that was a great day. Anyway, so that's my answer. That's easy. But you guys have got a lot more to choose from.
Yeah, because I know they did that under the radar. That was the big Easter egg surprise.
Yeah. Which was nice. It made it even more sort of childlike and fun. I was Mr. Smith
on the call sheet,
even in the hotel.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, they probably just did it for my benefit, but it was nice. It was a nice thing to do.
Hey, Mr. Smith, anyone who told you look like Paul McGann?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And even just a few days later, someone I remember because I was still on Twitter at the time. There was a tweet saying I was tweeted saying a friend of mine just served you a sandwich in a Cardiff hotel. Care to comment, kind of thing. So the game was up anyway. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Anyway, what about you, McCoy?
I'm going to come in next because I'm going to get in before Sylvester does. Maybe.
Come on, then.
For me, the 5-ish Doctors, if that counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because working with you guys, David, you weren't around then, but working with you guys and with Peter and doing something which was just for the fans. We can prove that we didn't get paid. So we were doing it for nothing. Because we cared, and it was our way of saying thank you and celebrating the anniversary.
Well
and I had more fun doing that than anything else I've ever done, and I've watched it more often than anything else I've ever done as well. I've watched that 4 or 5 times, and each time it makes me laugh.
All right, and also you find out that I was in The Hobbit, didn't you?
Were you?
Yes.
Well, I thought that you made that up just for the...
No.
It's a surprise every time.
Yes.
You actually were in The Hobbit.
I really was, so I'm sorry.
Did you know?
Yes.
But the kicker is he was in The Hobbit, but he wasn't one of the Hobbits. I think that's the kicker.
Yeah, they were all taller than me in real life. A bit depressing, really.
So that was my best time ever.
Well, I suppose, I mean, did you say exciting or something?
Exciting, crazy, is however you want to interpret it.
Well, I suppose it was the time when I actually did save Sophie Aldred, Ace's life. We were filming in the studio, and she was in a water tank, and they started pouring water into it, and she was, and it was coming up like this, and she was screaming, "Doctor, doctor," behind and banging. And I suddenly noticed the glass started to bow. And I thought, that doesn't seem normal. And so I remember thinking, I've got to say something so authoritative that they will do it. No one will ask a question. So I did. I went, get her out of there at once. And they grabbed her. I'm thinking they pulled her out. The thing smashed. The water came pouring out. And I ran for some wooden stairs. And as I ran up the stairs, I said, "Switch off the electricity." So I was quite proud of that. But that was dangerous. I was for a minute a superhero.
I want to see that film.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they show it now for training purposes, but they don't show they only show the glass breaking, but they don't actually show the drama that went on round about it, sadly.
Well.
Well, they'd have to pay you if they did.
Yeah, that's true. I'm quite proud of it. I'd do it for nothing.
That's good. It's up there with Finney in the dresser. Stop that train!
Yes, that's right. One of those.
Yeah.
An Albert Finney moment. Yes, that's a good one.
All that training, McCoy. All that training.
David, again, as the Doctor or as William Hartnell, what do you think was the one day in the set that just sticks in your mind?
I think when we were rehearsing a scene for Adventure in Space and Time, and it's the first time I'd ever seen Dalek in flesh, in the metal, whatever, and they'd always spooked me a bit when I was younger and watching it I'm young enough to remember the Hartnell years. Yeah, here you go. Stop it. and I saw this thing on the studio floor and it was moving slightly. So there was clearly it was an active Dalek. So my curiosity, I thought I just have to go over and see what goes on, how they work. And I was a little bit nervous, I have to say. I just went over and I looked into the front. I saw a vague form of someone's face, but couldn't see very clearly
through the vents.
Yeah. So I just leant forward and I said, "Are you all right?" I don't know why I said that. And this voice came out that said, "Yeah, it's a bit hot in here, mate." It killed it. Totally killed it. It destroyed the mystery.
I can attest to that. I've been in a BBC Dalek, and it's get a little stuffy after a few minutes. So
yeah,
I've got the other side of that story, if you like, because once at the end of recording, I'd been upstairs for a cup of tea in the bar, and on my way back to the dressing room, I went through the empty studio, and right in the middle, with the working lights on, so it's quite dim, was one solitary Dalek. And I'm blasé about Daleks now, until you're in the dark with one, and suddenly the eye stalk moved. And I knew that all the people were up in the bar. And I was in a state of temporary anxiety. It turned out one of the engineers got inside to oil it because it was squeaking.
yeah.
But for a moment, that was a real Dalek. So even when you've worked with them for years, they can still have that effect.
Yeah.
Wow, nice, really nice. Excellent, gentlemen. Thank you for humoring me for that. We're good to go on our audience questions, so I say let's roll our first one. And this one comes from Basie Laird. What time would you want to live in if you could choose the era?
I like the Renaissance, I think, in Italy. I think that'd be great fun.
What would you be in, like one of the artist studios or one of the bordellos, or where do you picture yourself?
Both. Well, I mean, the artists were always in the bordellos, and the bordellos were always in the studios. I mean, they kind of all intermarried.
You'd still be a performer, though, wouldn't you? You'd still be somebody that wanted to.
Oh yeah, I think I'd be juggling and blowing fire, and kind of fooling around,
making mischief. And
yes, I hope so. Yeah.
I'd like to go back to the Elizabethan age and get a taste of what the Globe Theatre was like. Live on the South Bank, where all the sin and degradation were in the
and the bear pit,
rather than on the Puritan side, which was the north of the Thames. But to be part of and to be able to watch those plays and see how good these people really were.
Wouldn't it have been great to be in that gang that walked the remnants of that theatre, and the one in Shoreditch, and they walked it across the frozen Thames, and they built the. Would have been in that gang.
Over.
Yeah. Because there was a landlord dispute, wasn't there? In the Curtain Road venue, and during the night they dismantled the theatre and literally walked down what's present day Bishopsgate across the frozen Thames to the site of the present Globe.
Isn't that brilliant?
And relocated,
Yeah, because the theatre manager, Henslow, was going to double the rate.
That's right. Because they weren't taking care of some barn. There was a barn, wasn't there? It was part of the lease that they had to maintain this. Anyway, he got them on some technicality, so they just took the lot and legged it.
It's
across the river. It's a fantastic story,
isn't it?
Yeah, I want to be in that gang. I want to be in that gang with you.
I think I'll join you, Paul.
Nice.
I was just reading a biography by William Carlos Williams, and again, partly it's in 20s Paris. I mean, there's lots of stuff about 20s Paris. You can read, Movable Feast and those things, but it's one of those places in one of those eras, and it just makes you think, wouldn't that have been great just to have hung around with those people? Or any of those people, just for that couple of years in the mid-20s, maybe. Even if you had no arse in your trousers, it would have been just great to have been in there, just soaking up the atmosphere. Anyway, so that's my pick. Mid-20s Paris.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Colin?
I'm going for the future. I'm an optimist. I want post-COVID, when we've sorted out global warming, and we got global cooling or whatever is required. When we've all grown up a bit and realized what this planet could be and should be, and that we've stopped it from being. And I'd like to sample that for myself.
Well said.
Taken.
Well said.
Bravo.
You rebel.
I really would.
I know you would.
I'd love to think that we're going to stop cocking it up.
Well, we have to really, because if we don't, that's it. Goodbye.
Exactly. But you try to convince them that.
I mean, the thing is that surprises me is that in these recent elections, that the Greens have not done better. I mean, in Germany, the Greens might end up running the country. Why is it in this country? Do we not realize that, we need to do something really dramatic?
I think the Greens have done okay locally, but of course nationally it's impossible for them in the UK because
the voting system. Because in Scotland they've got a different voting system and they've got a few more Greens in. But I mean, I would expect that to really be a surge. People not worried. I'm worried about the end.
We were taking the results of the local elections this morning here. I live in the city of Bristol, in England, and an 18-year-old Green, a man. Has been elected councillor, and to me and I think that'll do. That if that's replicated even, in some small way around the country, it's a start. It's a beginning, because it's that generation that's going to fulfill Colin's dream of any kind of future.
16 or 17, you're allowed to vote. I think this is the same in Wales as well. It's only in England that allowed young people to vote, and I mean they need to vote because it's their world that we're destroying.
In USA, it's 18. So
well, it's 18 in England, but not
as long as I can remember.
But
there are certain parts of Scotland, I think.
All of Scotland, all of, and Wales, you can over 16 and you can vote.
They're frightened, aren't they? Because anyone of that generation has an opinion about our generation, quite rightly.
Yeah.
the young ones are going to topple the towers of Ilium, and they're trying to stop.
Well, I have total faith that they will be asking more tougher questions than we ever asked. And,
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, over here in the United States, 18 to vote, 21 to drink, and you can buy a firearm at 9, but that's just America. So, so Lazy Laird, thank you. Very fun question. What do we have next? From Mark, which Doctor Who villain would you hate to face in real life?
Well, we have
Weeping Angel, man. Weeping Angel. It's got to be the Weeping Angel. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the most perfectly realized, childlike, scary baddie invented for yonks, in my view. It just works. It works in the spirit, the old spirit of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I love that. That's my answer. Don't blink. Love it.
I mean, I was in Norway. No, it was actually Sweden. Late night, coming out of an English bookshop, and there was a church with a steeple, and there was this light shining on the steeple, and there was an angel, and I nearly got run over because I tried to walk without blinking, and I walked into the road and nearly got killed.
There's a moral in there somewhere, McCoy.
There is, yes. The weeping angels are dangerous. It was a weeping angel for real. Nearly killed me.
Indeed.
Clowns. Were there ever clowns in Doctor Who?
Yes, I did one called the Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
Yes, you did.
And the actor who played the clown, the lead clown in that, was brilliant. I'm terrible at remembering names, but I'm sure the fans will correct me and let me know who he was in EastEnders too. Wonderful, brilliant he was. And there's a lost one, wasn't there? William Hartnell lost clown one, wasn't there?
There was, I think in the Chase they did that way too. And the Chase was a big, huge 10-parter where he actually fought Dracula and Frankenstein as well, because they were in a futuristic haunted house and stuff like that. So that was one of the crazier. We got to see Frankenstein's monster destroy a Dalek.
Oh right.
So that was pretty good. So David, any particular Doctor Who villain you'd hate to face in real life?
Well, not a specific villain, but what overtook me as a fear factor during Twice Upon a Time was the Cybermen. Because they're very anonymity. Oh, how did I say that without a retake? A very anonymity and that faceless thing. I found them quite alarming on the set.
Yeah.
So implacable, aren't they?
Yes.
They look enough like us, but they're totally implacable, and no argument in the world.
No.
Yeah.
And there's no way of guessing.
Yeah.
And the Daleks are honest. They just want to exterminate you. The Cybermen want you to be like them.
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind because they're quite tall.
Yeah.
No, your Cyberman would still be a headshot.
Oh, there's Sylvester.
Colin, who would you hate to face in real life?
I told you.
Oh, sorry.
Clown.
Cloud. That's right,
Yeah.
Clown. Sorry, my bad. Sorry. Candyman.
Hey, Papa, ship out.
That's right. Candyman scared the crap out of me when he first came on. You up against it, Sylvester. Just the idea of this robot covered in candy and with a high-pitched squealing voice was just...
Yes, I mean, when it came out, the adults who watched Doctor Who then thought it was silly and ridiculous, but the children who watched it were terrified. And that was like one of the things that the Doctor Who does very well. It takes a common, lovable, cuddly thing and then turns them into a rather frightening monster of some sort. So, the Candyman was quite good, really.
Yeah. For
that reason.
Exactly. Mark, thank you. Great question. What do we have next? From Debbie. If you could write your own episode of for your Doctor, what would you like it to be about?
Me, all me.
Yes, I'd like it to be about him, all him.
Thank you. God,
I'd like to attempt a silent movie episode. Was it ever done? Was there
No,
ever...
I requested Big Finish. They asked that question of me once, and they said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "A silent movie for Big Finish." And they actually went away and researched it, and they said they'd come up with an idea of how to do it. But then the BBC proper, the TV one, the visual one, said, "No, we can't use that. We're going to do that," and they never did do it. So. Yeah, that would be good, a silent movie one.
I'd like it. I'd like to, that's my answer. But if I'd like to write a silent movie episode,
it would be fun to see a visual
one. Yeah, with no dialogue.
Yeah.
Would it be?
I'd love that. I don't have to learn any lines.
Would it be like? Would the plot be like an artistic choice? Like just not going to have any dialogue, or would it be the Doctor thrown into a situation?
Well, plainly it would be jeopardy, and it would there might be a chase, and there might all the usual things.
Yeah, but would you have Charlie Chaplin running by, Buster Keaton, and all those people, and suddenly the cops being chased?
Oh, I don't mean we need to set it back in the teens or the 20s. I mean, it's in any area you like, except it's just a silent version.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I'd like to try that. Just to see how the actors would cope, mainly.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of them would cope very well, not having to learn any lines.
You might well think that. But, anyway, that's my answer.
Yeah, that's a great one. I like that.
Yeah, indeed. Anybody else, if they could write their own ticket?
Lately I've been just absolutely absorbed with these Mars mission that's going on, and I think it'd be wonderful to for the Doctor to discover life on Mars. Maybe even go back to when all those rivers were running through the canyons, and as it was, because it looks as though there once was, to me anyway, and I'd love that to be a Doctor story.
There is a precedent for that. The race called the Ice Warriors are from Mars, a class after it, but we've never seen them at the apex of their civilization. So that would be a great story. I'd love to see the first Doctor going to the height of the Ice Warrior civilization.
Maybe this morning I was reading about what Elon Musk was saying about Mars and the idea of living on Mars, and particularly the bit where he says it's really going to be hard, and you probably ain't coming back, and you might die, kind of thing. There's all these caveats.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be a great episode where the Doctor gets involved in that, and there's a sort of Elon Musk character. There's some human transportation, or there's something trying to get there, and there's trying to quit the planet and live there.
Well, I being a Scot, I would open a fish and chip shop and sell deep fried Mars bars.
There's always one, isn't there?
There'll be batter.
There's always one.
Dressed in batter. Martians would be kind of go around. They wouldn't be wearing, it'd just be batter they had. That'd be good.
War of the Worlds.
Actually,
there's always a Scot involved.
In Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles, a guy does that. The first early colonist to Mars, he actually sets up a diner on Mars. And Darren McGavin played him in the TV version. So it wouldn't be too hard for a Scotsman to open a pub. So absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
I'd like a story where Jennifer Lawrence plays 20 identical characters, only one of whom is the real Jennifer Lawrence, and the Doctor has to find out which one it is and destroy the other 19 Jennifer Lawrences.
Yes, I could see it'd be fun finding out.
Yes.
Yes.
If I were a therapist, I'd be very interested in what you had to say next, and how you came to this.
If you were a therapist, I'd tell you.
It's very interesting, Mr. Baker. Do go on.
No, you don't have to. Debbie, thank you. Great question. All right, here's one from Island. Ooh, do you have a favorite guest star from your time as the Doctor?
Which island is Ireland?
I don't know.
From Island. Look.
Ireland, and it's been transposed.
Honestly.
Incorrectly.
Do you have a favorite guest star from your time?
Iceland. Iceland is.
It could be Iceland.
Yes.
But maybe her name is Island because, you know, she was conceived on an island.
Well, that's her name.
Yeah.
I just read it. Well, it's the screen name people put in our chat room, so
Maybe.
it's like a
No
Twitter
man
handle or
is
something.
an island.
Entire of its.
No, but this might be a lady. She might be a lady.
That ain't no lady. It was that schnitz in Germany, wasn't it? Anyway, we digress. What's the question?
What's your favorite guest star
from
Patrick
your time?
Patrick Troughton. When I was doing Doctor Who, Patrick Troughton was a guest star in one episode. I couldn't name anybody else if I've worked with him, because for me, he's the man who did the hardest job of the lot. Without him being a brilliant
Absolutely,
doctor, we wouldn't be here talking to you now.
That's right. He made it work.
Yeah. And he was effortless and charming and generous and kind and clever and witty and all the things you would hope a doctor would be. And he does it without waving any flags, just by being Patrick Troughton. I loved him.
Oh, bless him. Bless him.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm not going to answer that question because there were lots of different people I enjoyed working with immensely, really. And I wouldn't like to pick one out because I'd upset the others.
No,
well, then you just say a guest star you enjoyed working with of the many that you did. Yeah.
Well, because we have only done the big finishes, really, and you know we've done lots of them, and I'm with McCoy, and there's been so many that have been fantastic. It seems churlish to single one out, but I'm going to. Well, in fact, two of them. Wendy Craig.
Yes.
Wendy Craig. Who happened to be in one of the best films I ever saw, which was The Servant.
Oh my word, what a great film! And she was fantastic in it, as they all were. Anyway, and she was so gracious because it was 30, 40, or 50 years ago. But I was dying to talk about it. She was so gracious. Anyway, so I turned into a fan, and she let me do that. Bless her. And Derek Jacobi, who I finally got to meet when he came and did a big finish. Just because he was one of them older actors that made me want to be an actor before I was an actor, so to speak. Him. There you go.
And he's another effortless one who wears his talent lightly, doesn't he?
Oh, completely. Please, and has a really good time doing it. You know, as well. Just wants to have a hoot. Yeah. Bless him.
I believe it.
I can't say I had a favourite guest star because I never had one. But Peter Capaldi was a co-star, I suppose, in Twice Upon a Time, and
he'll do.
Yeah, I mean, you were the guest star for all intents and purposes.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So if I asked Peter Capaldi, he would say, David Bradley was the best guest star we ever had.
I hope so. Not Peter, but when I was doing the big finish, Carol Ann Ford came in for a day's recording. So that was quite something.
The legend that is.
Yeah. So that's all I can say. Incidentally, I worked with Patrick Troughton in Family at War, Oinks, in the early 70s. And I then went on to work with his son, David Troughton, in The Tempest and other things at the RSC. Then I worked with Patrick Troughton's grandson, Sam, in a TV series. So that's a unique thing, I think, working with three generations of one family.
Well. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the one that for me really would be, I suppose, Ken Doddy. Ha-ha! Mrs. Which was an extraordinary, wonderful experience. He arrived.
Did you do Shakespeare with him?
Pardon?
Did you do Shakespeare with him?
No, he was a Doctor Who. He was in one of my.
Oh, he was in a Doctor. Oh my word!
Yeah, it was. It was quite a silly one. Well, it was quite fun, really. Dealt on the Bannerman. What happened was that we landed on a platform, this platform in space, and we were the billionth people to land in it. Bonnie and I. We came out, said all these lights were on it, and then Ken came out going, "Welcome! You've won a prize. You're going to go to Disneyland." And so there was in a bus, an old 1920s bus or something, and everyone we filmed it in Wales, so all the people extras were all Welsh people who worked in clubs, the clubs in Wales, and it was a hilarious experience, really, because he would, he had them in stitches getting onto this bus. The thing is, they never put it in the TV thing. They kind of didn't bother doing it, really. But he was so sweet, because when he arrived, he said, listen, he came up and said, look, anyone, tell him, if you see him doing anything, let me know. I mean, you guys know how to do this. I haven't done this very often. And, it was really humble of him. But this was a sad thing happened was we were outside in the OB van watching it. And Ken was doing something. Oh, yes, he was captured by and killed by the villains. And while it was all happening, he was going, he was doing Ken Dodd, the character he plays, not Ken Dodd, the person. And the director and the producer were looking at it and said, what's he doing? What's he doing? And I was sitting there thinking, well, why don't you go and tell him? I mean, all you have to go to him and say, listen, Ken, imagine you were at the Palladium and the IRA arrived and, that's it. That's what you are. That easy. And he would have done it. And of course, I couldn't do it because he was Ken Dodd. How could I run up to Ken Dodd and say, hey, Doddy, look, don't do it. This is, I know he asked, for help, but and it was one of those things you sat there and then, they'd cut down his part very dramatically. And, it was just so sad, really.
He was a genius.
They in that episode, they put him in that really crazy costume. It looked like if Liberace was an ice cream salesman.
Never knowingly understated.
Yeah. It was purple, and he had like a hat and glitter, and
he was lovely. He was lovely, And afterwards, I went to see him do a show live. 5 hours later, I went around to the dressing room, and he was very welcoming. Because he was notorious for the backstage staff would used to go home at 11 o'clock and he'd carry on until 2 or 3 in the morning. They wouldn't let the audience leave.
Wow. Yeah. Nice stuff. Island, thank you very much. Great question. What do we have next? From Rio. Have you ended up in possession of any props from the set?
Yep.
Not for want of trying. Most actors will try and steal something. Come on, boys, admit it. You will try and sort of half-inch something, won't you?
I had the costume. Colin and I both had the costume. Because they gave us the costume, the spare one, to do personal appearances and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so when both our times came to an end, they forgot to ask for the costumes back. I've still got the umbrella, one of the original umbrellas.
Oh, okay.
I remember when we shot
Kate O'Mara's front.
When we shot the pilot thing, the so-called movie in Vancouver, they sort of knew, they knew a bunch of actors there. They're going to want to nick a few things, and of course, because it was a pilot, notionally we were going to all reconvene 6 months later and shoot the first episode, and everything was going to go into boxes and everything. They watched us like hawks for the last 2 or 3 days. So we didn't get away with anything, but normally one does. It's just a tradition.
Paul, do you still have the leather jacket when you were doing like the your version? You still have that outfit?
Yeah, that's upstairs somewhere here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I always loved that look. It was so cool.
Yeah. I have that.
Awesome. Anybody else?
We all plundered everything we could.
You know what you do.
All you had to do was stand outside and watch what was being thrown in the skip at the end. And at one point, they were chucking Daleks into the skips outside the stage door.
Wow.
And people would grab bits and run off with them. And I got to the point when I was doing it, I say, what's going to happen to this? And they said, skip, off with it. And over the years, I've given a lot to charity auctions, but I've still got some bits, and the costume, like Sylv said. But John Nathan Turner insisted that I took a costume home because they were getting nicked stolen from the wardrobe at Shepherd's Bush. He said the safest place to keep this is in your house, and I've still got it.
Nice.
It's the thing about public broadcasters, isn't it? The public think they've got a little right to just come in and take bits of it. from time to
Yeah.
time.
People got jobs at the BBC so that they could, as cleaners, to clean the Doctor Who office. And John would put up false things on the blackboard saying the Doctor's wife was one, actually, long before the other Doctor's wife. And it was in the press 2 days later. The Doctor getting married.
Yeah.
Baloney.
Well, apart from my Astrakhan hat of William Hartnell, we were the last people to film or even work in the old BBC broadcast, BBC in Shepherd's Bush. And when we shot 1 or 2 office scenes in there, and we shot in that little circular area in the middle, and it was already due for renovation. I think it's a kind of hotel now of some kind.
Yeah.
And I was walking around the corridors, and there were all these iconic photographs of everyone from Sir Black, Bruce Forsyth, and all the great actors who'd worked there over the years, and the massive 4 foot by 4 foot pictures lining the walls. You must have seen them.
I
Yeah.
remember them. Yeah.
And I saw one of my comedy heroes, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. And I said to the first AD, "Oh, I love that picture. What are they doing with these pictures?" And he said, "We don't know. They may be just scrapping them." I said, "Oh, that's that." And then when I wrapped that day filming, I found it in the back of the car taking me home. He'd taken it down.
Great
And
story.
I've got it downstairs. I'm trying to find a wall big enough for it.
Well, you should have bought a house. If you knew a house, you should have measured the walls before you moved in.
Yes.
Sylv and I were there on the very last day, weren't we, Sylv?
Yes, we
The
did.
last day anyone was there. And the people were unscrewing all the signs off the walls.
Yes.
I came back with a sign pointing to Red Assembly and the room 301. People, room 301 in the pocket. Because this could be junked. Why not?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely. Wow. Rio, thank you so much. Great question. Gentlemen, this has been an absolute delight to host you all again today. Any final words for our audience before we go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for tuning
Yeah,
in.
thank you.
That's
Take
all.
care.
We love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As always, been my absolute pleasure to host you all again here today. Thank you for joining us on the GalaxyCon virtual stage. Thank you to our audience for joining us, and thank you for your great questions. Hope to see you all again soon. Until then, bye-bye, everyone. Take care, and
Bye.
please
Bye.
keep
Bye.
washing your hands.